Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you everybody for your patience, and thanks everybody for joining today. Today is what to expect when you're upgrading, best practices for making your ServiceNow upgrade a success. My name is Scott Jaycox, and I lead our service management practice here at Covestic, which is inclusive of our ServiceNow practice. Joining us today, we also have John Gubitayo. He is one of our ServiceNow senior technical consultants, and Kenny Wimberly. He is one of our senior ServiceNow solutions architects. A real quick overview of Covestic. Covestic was founded back in 2001. We are headquartered in Kirkland, Washington, but we're considered to be a national practice. We've got offices and resources all over the United States. We have always been in the service management business. For the past 17 years, we've done a lot of IT service management consulting. We were technology agnostic until 2010, 2012 timeframe, and actually became a ServiceNow partner starting back in 2012. Over 200 consultants, over 100 ServiceNow successful projects. If you go to the Partner Finder page on the ServiceNow website, that's a good opportunity to look up partners and look at statistics related to them. One of our key statistics that were monitored and measured by ServiceNow is our customer satisfaction rating, which is currently a 9.6 out of 10. And then over 90% of our projects result in follow-on business. As you can see from this slide, we deliver services really across a lot of different industry verticals: insurance, education, high tech, state and local government, financial services, retail, and healthcare. In terms of today's agenda, so basically, where do I start? Planning your upgrade. We'll also talk about testing and remediation. That's pretty central to the whole upgrade process. As part of that, we'll also briefly discuss ServiceNow's automated testing framework, or ATF. Finally, we'll get into executing the actual upgrade, validating success, and then we should have time for Q&A at the end. Speaking of Q&A, as we progress through today's session, if you have any questions, please feel free to type your question into the question field located on your control panel. We'll do our very best to answer those questions at the end of the session, but if for any reason we're unable to get to all of them, we'll follow up via email. Also, we are recording today's webinar, and that webinar will be emailed out to this audience for playback or sharing with other members of your team who were unable to attend today's session. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So John, I'll turn over to you.
All right, thank you, Scott. And thanks to everyone for joining us this morning. So for those of you who are at the Knowledge Conference, of course, one of the big reveals was the roadmap and the naming of the future releases. And so ServiceNow shared with the ServiceNow community that on quarters, the first quarter and third quarter of the year, they're going to be releasing major releases. So in the past, it used to be fun to try and guess what the release name was going to be, and now we've got them out through the next couple of years. So it's good to know when things are coming and what their names are going to be. So most of us for newer instances, are probably on the Kingston release. And then if you happen to be on an older release, I know I've been working with some clients who are on Istanbul. They've recently been getting notifications that they're going to have to perform an upgrade to the Kingston release that's coming out in a couple weeks. So ServiceNow releases their releases with what they call feature releases. So these are the main releases that are named after world capitals. Within each feature release is what they call a patch release. So right now I think we're on Kingston patch 7. And so inside a particular feature release, as time progresses and new issues are identified and fixed, those patch releases come out, and those are cumulative. So patch release 7 will contain 654.321, all the previous patches for that particular feature release. And then periodically there's a security patch release. Normally, these are issued to you if you have submitted an incident to ServiceNow and they've identified that there's a particular issue with your instance, and so they release a security patch release for that. So in the past, these used to be like hot fixes for particular incidents that you might have submitted. So if possible, for your upgrade project, it's best to try and go to the highest release possible. So for now, if you were upgrading, you'd be trying to get to Kingston patch 7. Okay, so easing some of your concerns with an upgrade. So if this is if you're new on ServiceNow and perhaps the London release might be your first upgrade, these are the types of things that you'll need to consider to help ease your concerns, because of course an upgrade project is platform level, so it's a large project, and so there can be some anxiety and apprehension about it. But fortunately, with our sharings today, hopefully that'll help you for a successful upgrade. So the first thing to consider are your customizations. So if you are following best practices and you stuck to out of the box as much as possible, you're going to reap that reward now with your upgrade. So if you've minimized the customizations, hopefully there'll be less things you'll need to remediate for your upgrade. So again, another reason, like they mentioned at Knowledge, to stick to out of the box as much as possible so that your upgrades go more smoothly. The other area that you'll need to focus on are your integrations. So if you've integrated with any sort of third-party tools like Workday integrations, OpsRamp integrations, or Salesforce integrations, if you've done any sort of integrations, you're going to have to look at those very closely with the upgrade to make sure that those communications continue. And then if you've activated any sort of additional plugins, so if you've activated some additional functionality for your environment, then you're going to have to pay attention to that additional functionality and make sure you test it out during the upgrade testing process. And then, as Scott mentioned, it's very important. One of the key things here is to leave yourself plenty of time for testing. So testing, and I'll be mentioning this throughout the webinar, is crucial for the upgrade project. Okay, so getting started with your upgrades. So some of the crucial requirements are reviewing your release notes in the known errors portal, and then certainly utilizing ServiceNow's official upgrade checklist to make sure you're covering all your bases for the upgrade. And then somebody from your team on the upgrade team is going to need high access. So normally this is your system administrator or your product manager for ServiceNow in your company that have the ability to log into ServiceNow's customer support portal for high access. And then, as I mentioned, testing is crucial. So we're going to have to get together all the individuals who play a role within or are stakeholders in the ServiceNow platform. So we'll need assistance from the business process owners. Those would be your IT managers and your change managers to help out with testing and testing plans. Similarly, we'll have to get in touch with our third-party vendors and integrations to let them know, hey, we're going to need a little bit of your time to perform some unit testing with the new version of ServiceNow that we're upgrading to. So we'll have to hopefully carve out a little bit of their time to help with testing. Then you'll need your subject matter experts and your power users. So these individuals are crucial because they're the ones that really use ServiceNow or tend to use ServiceNow very thoroughly, and they can root out more accurately some of those harder to find bugs. So on my projects, I've had power users things that I had missed in my own little unit testing, and because they're more thorough in the tool and use different areas of it and different sequences, they were able to kind of root out different issues. So power users and subject matter experts are a huge help for the testing process. Likewise, since we're performing an upgrade across the platform, we're going to need our governance team involved. So we need to make sure that they're aware, of course, that we're performing this platform level upgrade and that they're carving out the proper change requests, setting up the proper timing for the upgrade, and kind of governing how their development and demands on ServiceNow are being processed. And then finally, last but certainly not least, our in-house developers and our system administrators. So these are the individuals that are going to be crucial for helping us remediate any sort of issues that are discovered through the testing. So they're certainly critical. And in a best case scenario, we've got them mostly fully utilized for upgrade projects. So we've got access to them to help with issues. Okay, so Covestic's worked with a lot of clients to help them perform successful upgrades. And so this is kind of our pathway to success for those projects and their upgrades. So step one is reviewing those release notes. So when London recently put them out on the doc site, so you can start reading up on the release notes for the London release and reviewing that information. I've got some screenshots coming up on that, so I'll talk further there. Then we have completing a test plan, so making sure you've got your incident management team identifying what's their critical path for testing. Similarly, change management identifying the types of standard changes, priority changes, emergency changes that they're going to need to test. And likewise, your request management teams testing out the service catalog items and such for the upgrade. Once we've got the test plan assembled, then we have to work on prepping our non-prod environment for the upgrade. So we'll work on a clone from our prod environment down to our dev environment, and we'll kind of freeze all development in our dev box, and we'll upgrade that environment, the non-prod environment. Then, as the upgrade's occurring in that non-production environment, you can monitor the progress window. I'll show you in coming up some screenshots about how the progress monitor looks, and you can kind of monitor the progress of the upgrade in real time. It's really cool functionality, especially when you're upgrading your production box. You can watch it in real time as it's occurring. For success, you need to review your upgrade logs and of course perform the remediation. So this is kind of where you can leverage a partner assisting with those remediations and review of the upgrade logs. Then you'll also need to check your system logs. And then of course, the most important part, personally, in my opinion, is testing. Then we'll upgrade our other environments. So if you're lucky enough to have a QA environment or a sandbox environment, then you'll upgrade those environments as well to the new release. And that's good because you get some additional timing to see how long the upgrade takes in those environments and kind of if it's consistent with your dev environment. And then you'll prepare to upgrade your production environment. So hopefully we've got a change window assigned for our upgrade after hours to minimize disruption. And then finally, we'll perform that upgrade in our production environment. And lo and behold, the happy event, our upgrade completes in production. Everything's working smoothly and we're on the new release, new functionality. Testing, very critical. Okay, so as we're continuing to plan for our upgrade, it's important to review those release notes. So the release notes provide us detailed information on what the new features are going to be. So this is your opportunity to say, hey, I wonder if that functionality that I've been waiting for or that my business process owner has been asking for is now available in the new release. So once ServiceNow posts that information out onto the doc site, you're able to see what new features and enhancements have occurred for that particular release. So a lot of times in the past when I'm reading these, I'm like, oh, cool, we finally got this new functionality. We finally got the table variable. so this is actually a fun part for me, is reviewing these notes and seeing what new functionality that ServiceNow is going to provide for that release. And then ServiceNow also has what they call a known error portal. So the known error portal is your opportunity to look and see what sort of issues have been encountered for a particular patch release. So again, this is important to review so that you know of any known issues that might be related for that particular patch. So this is an example screenshot of the known error portal, and you'll notice here it breaks it down per family release, and then on the left-hand side we've got Kingston, and then it breaks it down per patch release. So within there's known issues or problems for that particular patch release. This is again another important area for you to review to see if there might be any issues that might impact your particular configurations and environment. So these are cumulative, so you'll read through patch 7, then you'll click on patch 6 and read through that information. So you kind of have to read through all the sub-levels of the patch level that you're going from, just to make sure you have a proper overview of the known issues for that particular release. So when you're reviewing the release notes, ServiceNow does an excellent job of breaking that down per feature area and per product area. So if you so happen to just be using ServiceNow for incident management, you can focus your attention and your time on reading the areas of incident management that are going to be changed by this particular upgrade or our new functionality in there. So this is really handy because you can basically send off to your incident manager just the link for the incident management area, or change manager his area, so that they can focus their time and effort on just their scope of the application so that they can review that section. So that's a really helpful part. I really like how ServiceNow kind of divvies up this release note. They do an excellent job of kind of documenting it and making it very accessible for you to determine what's coming in the release and what's really impacting your area of focus. Okay, so the next couple steps are to complete the upgrade planning checklist, complete, of course, the important comprehensive test plan, and then considering leveraging automating testing framework. So in one of our previous webinars, I discussed the automating testing framework, and its crucial functionality is basically for upgrades. So it's to help you facilitate the testing of your upgrades. So it really comes into play for your upgrade projects. That's kind of its strength, is helping out with these upgrade projects. So if you hop out to the doc site, there will be a checklist for that particular release. So this is a screenshot of an example of the Kingston checklist. And this, again, is super helpful and a critical document for your upgrade project. So what it's going to do is it's line by line, phase by phase, breaking down the important tasks that you should be performing for your upgrade. And it's kind of handy because you can check off. I usually print this PDF off, and I'm working through it. I'm saying, yep, I did check the release notes. I did perform this particular step. So it's really handy to make sure that you're covering all your bases for your upgrade. So this is another great document that ServiceNow provides out on their document site for facilitating your upgrade project. So automating testing framework, again, this is its strength, is helping you out with your upgrade project. So with the automating testing framework, we're able to test our forms, we're able to test our service catalogs, our business rules. We're able to do this fairly quickly, and we're also able to do it consistently. So since it's programmatic, it repeats those steps in the same order, right? So some of the limitations, of course, with human testers are they might skip a step or they might get it out of order, and then that might cause a test to fail. But with the beauty with the automated test framework is it's going to do that sequence a number of times. You can also use it to repeat particular tests, so you can kind of do a little bit of load testing on the new release. And the beauty of ATF is it's not a third-party app, right? So it comes native with ServiceNow. So when we upgrade to the London release, it's ready to go for us to perform those testings on the London release in our dev environment. So that's the beauty of it. It's not like it's a third-party app that we have to go, okay, is your third-party testing tool app ready to go for London? Yes, it is. Okay, now we can start using it. Nope, it's ready to go when that new release comes out. And the nice thing with the new London release is now that we're getting the ability to test Service Portal. So we can, a lot of us, of course, have Service Portal out there for our end users. That's important functionality to test. And so with the new London release, we have new test steps to test Service Portal and Service Catalog. So some great enhancements coming in the London release to help us with our London upgrade. Okay, this is one of my personal lessons learned. So, normally when we're admins on a day-to-day basis, we're cloning from prod over to dev, and we're getting ready for a new development cycle or a new release cycle. We exclude the audit data and the attachments and such, because normally we don't need that for like 90% of our clones. But a clone for the upgrade project is unique because we need to be able to get an accurate assessment of that upgrade for each file that we've got in our production environment. It's crucial that we do what they call a full clone. So we bring over those audit logs, we bring over those large attachments to the development environment. And so my lessons learned from this was, I was used to just cloning without those. I cloned down to my dev box. We did an upgrade in the dev environment. I started time boxing. I said, okay, the upgrade's going to take about 90 minutes. Looks good. Well, lo and behold, we come and we perform that upgrade on our production, and it turns out there was some new attribute added to the system email log, and so the upgrade in production had to process all of the email entries, all of the email logs, and add this new attribute, and so it kind of threw the timing off of my production upgrade. And so it's critical. I learned this firsthand. Critical to make sure that you perform that full clone down to your sub-production environment, so you get the proper timing and time boxing for your upgrade planning. So making sure you're going to be able to fit within that maintenance window, and you're going to have your your upgrade go live bridge and such for the proper timing. So. Okay, I mentioned earlier that an individual from your upgrade team is going to need access to high. Most likely this is your system admin, so he or she has the ability to get into the customer support portal at high. And this is where you have the opportunity to view which instances and versions you are entitled to. So you're entitled to particular releases for your environments, and this is the interface where you get to schedule your upgrades. And so you get to choose which instance that you want to perform that upgrade on, and then you get to select which version and timing that you want that upgrade to occur. So certainly somebody from the team, from the project team for the upgrade, has to have high access so that we can communicate back to ServiceNow and basically their data center team to say, hey, this is the version that we would like to upgrade to, this is our instance, and this is the time. So this is where kind of the fun stuff happens in terms of scheduling your upgrade to occur on your different environments. So once you've requested that upgrade to your environment, what the ServiceNow is going to do, it's going to issue a change request for processing that upgrade. So it's going to be critical for you to make sure that you submitted that properly. So of course you want to evaluate the configuration item and make sure that you've selected the proper instance. So make sure you've got your timing right for your production one for sure, and your sub-production ones, and then double check that planned start date. So again, that's when ServiceNow is basically going to release to the monitor to say, hey, you now have this new WAR file and you're entitled to taking this new release. And then your scheduled job for update will check basically and detect that there's a new release available for the instance. And then that target version again is important to double check to make sure that you're going to hopefully the highest patch level available for that particular family release. So those are kind of the three main things you as a system administrator or the individual who's responsible for managing the high change request verify to make sure everything goes smoothly and is accurate. Okay, so when that time rolls around, the planned start time happens for the dev box, and the dev box detects that it's time to upgrade. It'll start showing when you log into the instance as an admin, it'll show you the progress monitor. So again, this is really neat functionality. I found it super helpful for my previous upgrade projects to kind of see the upgrade working along. And so you get to see the upgrade working for your platform, updating your database schema, and then depending on how many plugins you've activated, it'll process the updates for that those particular plugins. And then the completing part is usually just some fixed scripts and cleanups that it has to run. So that completing part usually runs pretty quickly. And then the details part, that's where I learned, holy moly, we're processing hundreds of system email logs. So the details log is really cool. It's telling you the exact file in the payload in that particular upgrade package that's being processed, and then it breaks it down to the individual XML code actually. So you can see with detail what is actually being upgraded at that point in time. So that's great visibility. And then down at the bottom are the various nodes that are associated with your environment. So of course, because the upgrade is occurring at a platform level, we need to upgrade the nodes that are kind of linked together for that particular instance. And so the nodes, all the various nodes kind of get upgraded together. And most, nearly all of mine that's all turned green. So that's been happy. So that's good stuff there. All right, so once the upgrade has completed, then you will have what they call the upgrade summary report. So the upgrade summary report is your first opportunity to see how things ended up. So it's kind of like showing us, okay, what's the work ahead of us? So in this case, this is an example of, we had 108 skipped items. So that means, oh boy, we've got 108 things to evaluate and determine how we need to remediate those. And then we also get our time boxing, right? So this is saying it took about an hour and 2 minutes for the upgrade to occur. So again, this is really helpful to keep track of this timing to help plan for how much time it's going to take for your production environment. And then you can select down below, you can select the individual nodes if you want to just kind of see how those ones process. But the key things here are the duration, so that's the amount of time it took, and then the skipped updates. So that's kind of the work that you have ahead of you. So this is where once this is completed, now we have to actually start performing our regression testing. So again, we're going to be testing our core functionality, our incident management, our user tables, our email tables, those core tables, locations tables and such, those core tables, as well as our applications that we're using, so incident problem management, change and request, and then any sort of integration that we may have in our environment. So this is where we kind of dig into the weeds and start working on the remediation. So as an admin, we have the ability to look at the upgrade history log. So this gives us additional details on, the changes that were skipped, how many were applied, and how many were overall processed. ServiceNow does a nice job of kind of giving us a priority for this, and so it helps us kind of start our focus on the remediation. So those higher priority ones obviously is kind of where we start off. These are things that ServiceNow has identified as a high priority that's been skipped, and it's certainly something that we want to evaluate and remediate. But this is, as mentioned, this is the time-consuming but extremely critical part. This is like the heart of the upgrade project, is remediating these skipped objects and working on it. And this is where a partner can come into play. So this is where our clients leverage Covestic to help out with this analysis, because we're looking at the different things that have been skipped, making decisions on, is this new functionality that they need? What's the best way to perhaps merge this code? How will this impact other configuration areas? So it really takes that a bit of ServiceNow expertise to kind of determine how best to address these skipped items. And as a partner, we have experience across all the different application areas and a wealth of colleagues to collaborate with and say, hey, what should we do with this particular skip thing? And they may say, well, in the past for this particular one, I had success doing this. So again, this is where the partners can come into play and help you with this remediation. So these are some screenshots of the examples of performing the remediation. So ServiceNow fortunately does a really nice job of giving us, as system admins and developers, the ability to drill in line by line. So on the left-hand side, you're seeing an example of something that's been skipped. And attribute field by field, we get to determine, okay, yeah, I do want to take some of the newer London functionality for that particular thing. Or no, for my environment, I need to retain those, the event manager needs to retain that particular role for this area of the system. So this is really cool interface that helps you to evaluate, what things need to be merged and such. And then sometimes, it's like, yeah, we made that customization, but you know what? We don't actually really need that business process as much anymore. And so this is our opportunity to take on and revert to the base system. So we can revert back that skip thing and say, yep, you know what? I like that new London functionality for this particular configuration area. I'm going to, revert back to the base system and get, closer to out of the box, closer to the best practice. And then there's a helpful field here called resolution. And this is for the individuals who's performing the remediations, most likely your system administrators. They get to log basically what they did. So in this case, we're saying, you know what, we reviewed this, and we're going to go ahead and take this, this system action, this inbound email action back to out of the box. We're going to revert it back. And then if you perform some testing and you say, you know what, we reverted it back to box, but that might not work out too perfectly, they even give us the option to reapply the changes. So there's a lot of cool flexibility within ServiceNow to kind of address these skipped upgrades and remediate them. Okay, so hopefully your system admins are fairly familiar with your day-to-day system logs prior to the upgrade, but usually what I like to do is I'll take a peek at my dev box and kind of review some of the logs over the last couple of days prior to upgrading it. So I can know if basically these are pre-existing issues. So in this example, maybe we're encountering some SAML errors. So then when you apply the upgrade, you can do the delta. You can say, okay, are we getting new error messages from the upgrade that we need to investigate further and remediate? So it's possible that we applied the upgrade and something disrupted one of our SAML configurations. So our multiple SSO might have got disrupted by the upgrade. So by examining the error logs and the warning logs within the system, that kind of clues us in to say, okay, this might be something we need to remediate. So it's crucial that we investigate these logs and make sure we address any sort of issues that may have arisen from the new release. All right, the crucial takeaway for today. So as Henry Ford said, quality means doing it right even when no one is looking, right? So if you really have a strong work ethic and you're really a lot of our QA people and such, and you focus on quality, nobody's looking around or over your shoulder or anything, but you're doing your own job of making sure that it's a quality job. And so testing and testing and testing in a quality manner is really going to lead to the success of the upgrade project. So this is, we usually incentivize with little lunches with pizza, and people come in and they perform their testing, and so you can do different things that might help facilitate testing with your company. But encouraging those business process owners and power users and subject matter experts to really test out their areas, so that we can root out basically any sort of issues that may have arisen from the upgrade. And we can get those remediations and get ahead of them. Again, don't forget about the automated testing framework, right? So this is the beauty of ATF, is we can leverage that automated testing framework to perform this testing, and hopefully we'll have, root out any sort of issues and get better stability and better success with our upgrade project. So main takeaway, testing, testing, testing. Okay, so after we've done our thorough testing, everyone's covered their bases and remediated stuff, now it's time to proceed with the upgrade. So again, in our sub-production environment, we'll go ahead and perform those upgrades, and we'll apply any sort of update set fixes to usually your test environment. So if you have 3 environments, dev, test, and prod, then what happens is you'll upgrade your QA environment, then we'll apply our update sets or remediation update sets to the QA environment, and then we'll test to make sure, yep, we did remediate it. So those updates, that's our opportunity basically to verify that our remediation update sets are working properly and preventing that particular issue with the upgrade. After we've kind of got everything squared away on our non-production environments, then we prepare for upgrading our production environment. So of course, hopefully we've got communication going out saying, hey, good news, we've got London coming to the company. Some of those new features and functionalities you guys have been wanting are coming to the system and coming to the tool. There's some cool new stuff that we get to do. So you're communicating out to the broader company and stakeholders that the upgrade is coming. Then, of course, you're following your change management process within ServiceNow, hopefully. So you've got it scheduled, it's approved, we're all ready to go. We've got our maintenance window, we've got our test plan, implementation plan, all that fun stuff is ready to go for the change management process to support the upgrade. Of course, hopefully this should already be in place, but hopefully your maintenance window for ServiceNow is outside of normal business hours. So because the upgrade is occurring across the platform, this is it's going to take down normal services for ServiceNow. So this should be outside of your normal business hours when we're going to disrupt the environment as little as possible. So sometimes I know some people kind of sneak in update sets during the normal business day. That might be okay for those particular things, but with an upgrade now, this is platform level. It's going to be taking a full processing of ServiceNow to perform this, and so we can't have people logging in trying to perform incident management type stuff. And then finally, when the day arrives, we'll execute our upgrade. So we'll be watching that upgrade monitor and making sure everything's progressing happily. And then once the upgrade completes, we'll apply those remediation update sets in production. And then I usually do some smoke testing and regression testing to make sure those are still happy and prod. And then you're off to the races. You get to rejoice. The upgrade is done, and then we perform a post-upgrade review, right? We kind of do a lessons learned to make sure what things can we do better for the next upgrade. So good to kind of take a look back and see what areas can we improve upon, because ServiceNow is constantly releasing brand new cool functionality. As we saw on the first slide in the roadmap, it's going to be Q1, Q3, and so we're going to be wanting to upgrade so that we can take advantage of that new functionality and features from ServiceNow, kind of leverage the most of our platform. Okay, so let's kind of recap some of our best practices for upgrades. So when it's been done properly the first time, it's going to make subsequent upgrades easier, right? So if you've been a long-time customer and you've worked at, you've already done Jakarta, Kingston and such upgrades, you've more or less gone through the process, and it becomes easier because you've already kind of have your test plan. Maybe you've released some new applications, so you just have to add in a couple new test cases for some new applications. But more or less, since it's an ongoing process to support ServiceNow, you'll keep improving it over time. Again, my own personal lesson learned is when you're cloning to that sub-production instance, make sure you bring over those attachments and those audit logs so that we get proper timing and proper remediation of any sort of issues. And then the unique thing about an upgrade project is it's platform level, right? So it's best for us to kind of freeze all development, and that's kind of where our governance board comes into play. They're basically saying, okay, we've got to perform the upgrade. It's going to take this amount of time, so these particular development efforts kind of have to go on hold. We're going to focus our energy on this upgrade project, and then once that completes, then we can kind of resume our demand management and our release management for ServiceNow. So it's important to kind of put all your focus on this upgrade process so that it gets done properly and then as timely as possible. So again, this is from personal experience, really crucial to spend that time now during this upgrade process so that we don't, we minimize and mitigate as much as possible any sort of P1s and fire drills. So, as the saying goes, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So hopefully we can find those issues. Like I was talking to a friend of mine actually this morning, and he was finding some issues with the display of the catalog. A lot of us have gotten or some clients have gotten the notification that, hey, Kingston's coming out. Guess what? Istanbul's is gonna be kind of phased out. So a lot of people are going to have to be upgrading from Istanbul now. And so he's actually working on that right now. And so he found some issues. Hey, this module for reports wasn't quite working. And then the display for some of the service catalog breadcrumbs wasn't working properly. But through evaluating, he found that there was one of these things was a known issue and such. So it's crucial to find these things ahead of time so that you're not in production. Somebody goes to create a report and then the page doesn't load properly, or they're trying to find their way through the service catalog and they're not seeing the breadcrumbs properly. So again, performing that testing during the upgrade process is crucial. And then at the end of the project, again, encouraging and facilitating a formal meeting, hopefully to share our lessons learned. So this is where we're kind of pulling together our business process owners, our SMEs, our power users, any sort of integration partners, anyone who is kind of involved in the upgrade project, so that we can learn the lessons and then be able to perform it even better the next time. And then, of course, upgrade is kind of where your dirty laundry is aired, right? So if you've gone crazy and done tons of customizations and modified UI pages and UI macros and kind of really deviated a lot from out of the box, that's going to come home to roost when we perform the upgrade. We're going to get those skipped upgrades, and we're going to kind of see if areas that may have been overly customized and that are being their new functionalities and features might be skipped because of during this upgrade process. So reducing and eliminating those customizations is necessary. So again, this is an opportunity for us to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we did customize this in the past, but we probably shouldn't have done that. Here's our opportunity. We're going to revert back to out of the box to the best practice for the London release, and we'll get that new functionality. And then a recent lesson learned for me is, if you so happen to be in a phase one, and we've got Kingston coming out in the next couple of weeks here, don't try and squeeze in a new release version in between your go live. So if you're already past UAT and you've got everything tested out, go ahead and let's just release on what we've done our phase one on, and then shortly thereafter. We can perform the upgrade process. So don't try and squeeze it in between. Let's stay solid on the release that we've already been doing our dev and UAT on, and release with that. And then shortly thereafter, we can pick up the new functionality in London. Okay, so to summarize, very crucial to review those release notes, see what the new functionality and features are for the London release. Of course, it's important to review your comprehensive test plan, make sure we're testing all our bases, our critical path information for incident management, change management, service catalog. Prepare those non-production environments for the upgrades, so freeze all our development for our other projects, and work on the upgrade environment, upgrade in the development environment, and then upgrade that non-production environment, and then monitor the process to kind of see how it's going. And then we'll review those upgrade logs and perform the remediations in our dev box. And then we'll check your system logs to see if any sort of new issues may have arisen. And then stating it one more time here in red, testing, testing, testing. Again, critical for the success of your upgrade process is to test as thoroughly as possible so we can kind of root out and remediate any issues that may have arisen. And then you'll prepare for your upgrade of production, you'll update your production environment, and then finally, hooray, we can rejoice. We've successfully upgraded to Kingston or the London release. So that kind of wraps it up here. So Scott, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you for Q&A.
Great, thank you, John.
Sure.
Let's see, we have had a couple of questions come through. Kenny, I will serve this first one up to you. Obviously, feel free to jump in as well, John. How do you get the most recent version of ServiceNow if it isn't in general availability? For example, when we need access to new features that will help our business, where not having them hinders our business.
Yeah, so we get this question quite often. We have a lot of customers that are interested in, they go through knowledge and, they talk about the next feature, but the next version's features, and it's not actually available yet. And so we have a lot of customers that are interested in what they see when they go to knowledge conferences. And one thing that we have done in the past, what we do is encourage them to speak to their account executive to see if they be considered for early adoption due to necessity. But you got to keep in mind that there are risks involved with this, and those should be taken into careful consideration. So just always be mindful of that. You can ask. That doesn't mean that ServiceNow is going to say yes. But if there is a good business case for a feature that you need that's not in your current GA version of ServiceNow, they may make an exception for you.
Okay, thanks, Kenny. Next one, where do I find version-specific links to the information mentioned earlier, like the known errors and release notes?
So aside from the doc site, there is a specific area that you can look at when you're in the High Service Portal. And when you're in the High Service Portal, you can go to your instances, go to Manage Instances from there, and for your instances that are entitled to an upgrade, in the action, there's an action drop down that gives you an option to upgrade your instance. When you click on that, it will take you to a service catalog item that will, up at the top, give you a list of links. And that list of links gives you upgrade product documentation, release notes, known error information, an upgrade planning checklist, and also a migration task for applications and features. So there's links on the High Service Portal for your entitled upgrade, specific to that upgrade. So we also do have at the end of this presentation a starting point, which kind of gives you some links to the current release, which is Kingston, and then obviously if you once we get there, you'll see the links. If you just change that Kingston to London, or whatever other versions you might be interested in, you just change the name in that URL, and that'll take you to those specific links and documentation.
All right, thanks, Kenny. Hey, and John, maybe I'll send this one over to you. I realize this varies widely from one company to another, but on a very general average, what length of time do companies spend planning, testing, and executing an upgrade?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So it really depends on the scope of how you're using ServiceNow. So if you might be a smaller organization and you're only working within incident management, then your upgrade project is going to, maybe take a couple of weeks. But if you're a large scale enterprise organization, you've got a lot of different integrations, you're using nearly everything, incident, problem, and change. You may even have HR and facilities going and service management. So it's really based on the scope of your usage of the platform. So certainly the more applications you're using, the longer it's going to take you to test those areas and get everybody involved. So it kind of varies based on your companies. For my smaller companies, we can get them done fairly quickly. For the larger enterprise ones, of course, we've got more stakeholders, more people, more areas to test, so it takes longer. So it mostly depends on your scope and utilization of ServiceNow and how many people are involved in using ServiceNow and what areas you're using. So that's kind of the broad brushstroke, if you will, of kind of gauging it.
All right, thanks, John.
Sure.
We've got a couple of specific questions here. Looks like they probably apply to some specific slides. Kenny, I'll pass this one back to you. What is the difference between skipped changes to review versus customizations unchanged?
So this is a common question we get from our customers as well, and it's something that was added not too long ago to your upgrade history log. The skip changes to review are the actual ones that you want to pay attention to. These are out of box functionality that has changed in the newer release, and that was customized by the customer. These would be skipped during an upgrade. So those are the ones you want to pay the closest attention to. Obviously, the customizations that are unchanged is just a log of things that customers have changed over time but aren't affected by the upgrade.
And Kenny, it looks like a follow-on question to that, and we'll probably wrap questions after this one. What does it mean when you see skipped errors?
So these are typically updates that were intended to be to modify system properties or scoped applications most of the time. That's pretty much what I've seen when doing this, is they reference a system property that or a scoped application that where you have made a change and it shows up as a skipped error. The best thing here to do is just review the skipped error and determine if there's anything that needs to be done with it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kenny. And actually, I think that covers all of the questions that have come in so far. So if we have any others that come in before we close the webinar down, we can get back to folks offline via email. Next slide. We do have a couple of additional webinars and events coming up. On September 6th, we are sponsoring the ServiceNow user group in Charlotte. I will personally be at that event along with a few other folks from our team. The following week, we are sponsoring the ServiceNow Future of Work Tour in Seattle. Covestic is a sponsor there. Week of the 25th, same event in Atlanta. If you ever want to just check in and look at upcoming events like these, as well as additional webinars, please just visit our website. Let's see. It looks like we've got listed here the ATF webinar. So John, earlier in the presentation, referred to the automated testing framework, and a while back we actually delivered a webinar specific to that topic. So again, if you visit our website, you can download a recording of that webinar. So that's it. So just want to thank everybody for making the time to visit with us today. Again, we've got a ton of great resources available on our website. If you attended today's webinar, again, we will also distribute a recorded copy of the webinar. So feel free to forward that to other colleagues within your organization. So with that, we'll go ahead and close down, and thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Take care.